Hello, Internet. I am Corione, your witch in residence here on YouTube. And today I want to talk about the classic Rankin and Bass Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, before we get too deep into it, the Cheer Choice Awards are getting into the home stretches, and this week they're going to decide whether yours truly is worthy of receiving an award. So please consider voting for me in the description below. There will be a link. Just follow it. Thank you very much. With that obligatory ritual out of the way, let's get into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now, there's a lot of pieces we could tackle with this movie. There's the generally accepted, neck beard answer to this movie, which is you're only useful to society when, you have something that nobody else does, kind of thing. I'm not a big fan of that narrative. There's the idea of it's important, like, of conformity. These things are obvious. Now, what I want to talk about revolves around, believe it or not, the island of misfit toys. Now, when we talk about the island of misfit toys and boyfriends, I am not referring to the drawer your significant other keeps their toys in. That's a different misfit toys. No, what I'm talking about here is a place where all the toys that don't fit well into the normal run of things, like a three-legged doll or a teddy bear with claws or something. Okay, with these toys, they all find purpose together, and I can't think of a better metaphor for you don't have to conform to find your community. Okay? You don't have to necessarily conform to find a value for yourself in a society. Look, now that's not to say, and I want to make that clear, absolutely clear. This is not to say that it is completely okay to be a complete jerk to people all the time on some self-imposed narrative because you just don't want to change. That's not it at all. What I'm saying here is the key important piece is that you can let your uniqueness be free and still find a place full of people that are unique and crazy and fun like you. I mean, until the internet existed, I thought I was the only person on the planet who really, really liked, Transformers the way I did. Still to this day, knew about Captain Power and frequently tried to rewatch some of the weird 80s stuff that I just really enjoyed. And, who would like do stuff like get out their Silverhawks still. So, the internet has been a major boon for finding those communities. And, a little bit of letting your freak flag fly. I mean, I got invited to a group of gamers that specifically only got together because of their orientation, and then realized, oh, actually, we just really like hanging out with each other because we've become a group of friends. And that's wonderful, okay? We've talked previously about finding your group. You can be yourself, but still make the effort to fit in, okay? And the way you tend to do that is by being useful, helpful, and friendly to the people that are in the group. Now, let's unpack all of that. Being useful. Look, it doesn't matter the society. If you are a leech, if you take away from everybody else, you are not helping that society, so you are part of their problem. Okay? This is not good. Okay? So maybe you drive and can offer to drive sometimes, or maybe if your people are going places, you can offer to pay for gas or what have you. That would be useful, right? maybe you can occasionally, cook or bring goodies for the group. That would be useful. Okay. Maybe you can add something to the conversation as opposed to subtracting from it. That would be really useful too. Friendly. Look, when I talk about friendly, what I am saying is being approachable and open to having genuine and compassionate conversations for other people. Okay? Being truthful to the point of causing pain is not helpful. It's not friendly. It's not useful. It's just rude. Okay? But if someone's telling a story and you encourage them to go on by listening and saying, okay, so and so happened, and then what happens? Right? And by reaching out and confirming parts of the story and then asking for more, what you are showing is that you really care about the story that they're telling. Okay? By actively listening, by engaging with the people that are already talking, you will build friendships. By adding your own takes to things, so long as they are not off putting or intentionally off putting, you will be adding to things and not being an edgelord, right? And the last piece of this is you don't necessarily have to bring your own skills to bear to assist a group. You can be helpful, okay? Let's say there's a group and people are talking and somebody says, well, I've got a lot of work to do on my yard or whatever. You offering to come over and help do yard work. Look, it sounds menial. It sounds pretty basic. And it sounds like it would probably take a lot of time. But how helpful is it to that person? How much of a friend have you proven yourself to just be? Right? Every one of the misfit toys has found a use in their society, is friendly to the other toys in the society because, well, they don't fit in anywhere else either. And they're friendly, and they show that by welcoming others into the island, right? By welcoming Rudolph, by welcoming um, Andy the elf, despite his proclivities for dentistry, right? Which, I don't know if I would be okay with a short dentist. I don't know about an elven dentist though. Like, isn't that the tooth fairy? Something to think about. But we get that these people all have created a community together because they were willing to put aside their differences and say, no, we need to help each other because nobody else is going to help us. Well, that happens with us too. So look at those three things, okay? Because those are the three things you really need to advance a society, okay? You need to be helpful, you need to be useful, and you need to be friendly, okay? I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story about my own misfit toy, my grandfather. My grandfather had a pretty hard past, okay, and wound up leaving Austria and coming to Canada, not being able to speak the language, but eventually learning enough to be able to let them know, oh, actually, no, he did have his sheet metal journeyman papers and was capable of going ahead and being a sheet metal worker in Canada and actually put the copper roofs on some of the buildings in the city that I grew up in, and some incredibly beautiful ones at that. Well, when he retired, he bought a little home out in the middle of absolute nowhere. And when a Canadian is saying absolute nowhere, we're talking about, you could watch your dog run away for 2 days, or it's so deep in the forest that your neighbor, well, ironically, might be, the witch of the woods. But the point is, he moved out there, and everyone wasn't too sure about him at the beginning, but he always kept an extra jerry can of gas at his place in case somebody had trouble on the long road into and out of town. If you were short money, he would invite you over for dinner. So he made sure you got a decent meal. And to help you get back on your feet, he would introduce you to all the people that provided for the community in some way. His neighbor who had chickens. So he would introduce you so that maybe if you had something to offer that neighbor, you could get eggs. The neighbor who kept cows, so milk, right? And the neighbor who grew a lot of wheat, so you could get flour potentially, and other such things along the way. Or the neighbor who happened to work at the paper mill in town, so maybe you could get a job there. All these things that he would do. Now, if you tried to rob him or do anything else, I mean, he was a former soldier. He knew what he was doing, and he was quite built. I mean, he was a blacksmith in his spare time. So he was, though, friendly to everyone when he met them initially. And if they proved that they were a friendly sort, he would, continue to treat them as a friend. He was helpful to everybody because everyone knew that if you were in trouble, you could go to him and he would help. And he knew enough people and he knew enough things to be able to get you out of whatever trouble you were in. And he was useful. He was a blacksmith by trade. If you needed an odd bit of metal fixed, he could do it. He had some limited capability to do automotive repair or tool repair, that sort of thing. And he was a very active guy. He was an active hunter. And, there was more than one occasion where Christmas would roll around and somebody would find a quarter of a deer left on their stoop as a holiday gift to help them get through a winter. And ultimately, he lost his life being helpful and friendly, trying to help a gentleman get his car out of a ditch, and ultimately being hit by a logging truck. So he defined that kind of role for me in my life. And he defined what being of service to a community to me meant. It doesn't necessarily mean being a police officer or a firefighter or a paramedic. It means helping out your community with what skills you have. Okay? Even if all you've got is your father's hands and your uncle's tenacity, or whatever it is, or your mother's skill at baking, it doesn't matter what it is. Bring it to the table. Offer it to others. Be friendly and helpful where you can. And I promise you the world will beat a path to your door. So I want to thank everyone for listening if you made it this far. I appreciate you. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again. Take care, everybody.